Hey folks, how's it going? We're in XP11, which is a rarity on this channel, and we're flying a classic trijet today. We're flying the 727-100 from FlyJsim in this retro old Eastern Airlines livery. The Eastern Airlines used to refer to their jets as the Whisper jets. And we're flying 727-100 from here at our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., Ronald Reagan International, to New York LaGuardia, where we'll attempt the very fun, very challenging Expressway visual approach runway 31 at LaGuardia. The aircraft is currently cold and dark. Let's hop in the flight deck here and get it powered up, and we'll get going shortly for our pretty short 35-minute hop from Washington, D.C. to New York LaGuardia. Okay, welcome aboard the flight deck. Stations for a captain, first officer, and a flight engineer. Let's hop into the flight engineer station first and start powering the aircraft up. Okay, let's go up here to the upper flight engineer panel, turn on the battery. Okay, battery's turned on. We'll go to the overhead here and turn on the nav lights. And let's go ahead and start the APU here. APU to on, and then we'll move it into the start position. Hold it for 3 seconds. And APU starting up. Exhaust temp coming up there. And the FlyJsim 727, of course, comes with a handy-dandy checklist that you can reference as you're starting the aircraft up and going through procedures and flows during the flight. Okay, looks like I've got a good start at the APU, and it is stabilized. Let's go ahead and close the field and generator switches to connect the APU to the buses in the airplane. All right. And let's go ahead and turn on the packs for now. And we're going to be cruising relatively low today, flight level 190. And let's go ahead and turn on the no smoking sign, fasten seatbelt sign, and we'll turn on the window heat as well. Alrighty, next thing we'll do, of course, actually 1 second. Let's make sure we arm the emergency lights. Alright, let's go ahead now and initialize our CIVA INS here. We don't actually have to use this. We can navigate just purely VOR to VOR for the route we were flying from Washington, D.C. to New York LaGuardia today, but we're going to use the CIVA INS anyway just to get some practice with it. So we're going to rotate the knob there to standby, and we're going to put in our present position. We're located at gate 27 at Terminal B Central Pier, and the coordinates are north 3851.3, insert west 77.025, insert. And that's our present position. Let's confirm that once again, 3851.3 north and west 77.02.5. Confirm. Let's go ahead and rotate the knob here to align, and that should start aligning the INS. And depending on how far away you are from the equator, the INS can take a shorter or a longer period of time to fully align. So number here that's critical for us is the second number. There's 095. We're looking at the number that says 9. That shows you how much the INS has progressed through its alignment process. Once it counts down to 5, we can go ahead then and move the knob to nav for the INS, because the INS at that point should be sufficiently aligned to provide the level of accuracy we need for this road at least. So we'll wait for that to tick down to 9, but while the INS is aligning, let's go ahead and put in our waypoints for our route. We're doing the National 7 departures today, and our initial fix for the departure is going to be AGARD. Correction, AGARD. Not Asgard as in Thor, but AGARD. So we'll go rotate the waypoint selector here to 1, and let's put in the coordinates for AGARD. It's north 39. Let's do that again. North 39,026. Insert west 76,042. Insert. And let's cross-check that. 39,02.6, 76,04.2. That's good. Let's go to waypoint 2 here, and next waypoint is going to be Speak. North 39,035. Insert. And west 75,44.8. Insert. Let's cross-check that once again. 39,03.5, 75,44.8. Perfect. Let's go to waypoint 3 here. Next waypoint is going to be Echo November Oscar. That's the Smyrna VOR. And that's going to be north 39,13.9. Insert west 75, 30.96. We're going to round that up to 31.0. That's insert. Okay, so 39.13.9, 75, 30.96. We've rounded that up to the nearest tenth of a minute, which is 75.31. Perfect. Okay, let's go to waypoint 4. That's going to be Skippy. That's north 39, 30.4. Insert. And west 75, 16.3. Insert. Once again, we'll cross-check. Skippy 39, 30.4 north, 75, 16.3 west. Okay, waypoint 5 now is going to be Bessie. That's north 39, 40.6. Insert. And west 75, 06.7. Insert. Once again, we'll cross-check. Skippy, north 39, correction, Bessie, north 39, 40.6, and west 75, 6.7. Got it. And next waypoint, waypoint 6 is going to be Edger. That's north 39, 50.9. Insert, and west 74, 57.8. Insert. Once again, we'll cross-check. Edger, north 39, 50.9, west 74, 57.8. Perfect. Waypoint 7 is going to be Davis. That's north 39, 55, 34. Actually, I can only put in tenths, so got to do that again. It's going to be north, whoops, let's do that, north 39, 55, 3. Okay, got it right this time. And it's going to be west 74, 53.8. Insert. Once again, we'll cross-check. Davis, north 39, 55.3, west 74, 53.8. Confirmed. Okay, let's go to waypoint 8 here. It's Holy. That's north 39, 58.3. Insert. And west 74, 49.6. Insert. And once again, we'll confirm wholly north 39, 58.3, west 74, 49.6. Confirmed. Okay, waypoint 9 is going to be Brand. That's north 40, 02.1. Insert. And west 74, 44.2. Insert. Once again, we'll confirm that. Waypoint Brand, north 40, 02.1, west 74, 44 minutes, 0.2s. Perfect. Now, the CIVA INS, of course, can only accept 9 waypoints. Once we started moving through these waypoints, what we can do, if we need to, is once we've used up some of the earlier waypoints and we're getting close to, let's say, a waypoint like Holy or Davis or Brand further on in the flight plan, we can go ahead and reassign waypoints like 1, 2, 3, and 4 to further waypoints in this flight plan like Robbinsville, Corey, Tykes, Minks, etc. And now, of course, as I mentioned earlier, this particular flight plan doesn't require us to use the INS system. It's just something I'm using for practice in this flight because it's not very often you get to fly a classic jet with a vintage navigation system like this. So we're just going to primarily use this for practice until we get to Robbinsville. And at Robbinsville, we'll then switch back to flying on VORs to Proud, Dials, and then we'll fly that famous Expressway visual approach to runway 31 at New York LaGuardia. All right, awesome. Let's go ahead and check on the progress of the alignment here. We're down to 6. You see the number counting down. Just went from 7 down to 6. We need to go down to 5, and 4 would be a bit better, so we'll wait for it to go down to 4, and then we'll move the knob here to nav. So we'll wait for that to occur. And it is a beautiful evening here in our nation's capital, as you can see. Clear skies, not a cloud in the sky, and that's the way it is all over the eastern seaboard this fine evening. New York should be just about the same. Clear skies, and if we plan this flight correctly, we should be arriving just a few moments prior to sunset. We should have some gorgeous views of the setting sun as we roll out in final for the Expressway Visual 31. And winds are out of the north today, northwest actually, out of 300 at about 7 to 10 knots forecasted LaGuardia. So that makes runway 31 the ideal runway to land on at LaGuardia. All right, let's check on the INS here. Okay, we're down to 5. You can see the ready nav light has come on there. Okay, let's go ahead now. Looks like we've got sufficient alignment here. Let's go ahead and move the knob to nav on the INS. And the INS is now aligned and ready to provide guidance for us during the flight. Perfect. Let's move it back into the position display here. All right. And let's go ahead and start setting things up for the departure here. We're doing the National 7 departure. I want to get the Washington DCA VOR tuned in here, 111.0. And we're going to tune the 328 radial outbound. And let's roll our heading selector here to approximately 320. So that's the radial we're going to track outbound during this departure. Okay, let's go ahead and do our departure brief here. We've set our speed bugs here for takeoff. All right, this is going to be a standard left seat takeoff. Takeoff flap set to 5, and takeoff thrust 97% N1 approximately. V1 125, rotate 125, and V2 is 137. And we're located at gate 27 here, Central Pier. We're going to be pushing back into the alleyway here, and we're going to be taxiing to hold short of runway 01 for departure via Kilo, Foxtrot, Juliet, and we'll hold short of 1 for departure. And during the departure, for any malfunctions before V1, such as engine failure, fire, loss of control, aircraft unsafe to fly, I'll bring the throttles to idle, brake, bring the aircraft to stop, exit off the runway if able, and advise ATC. Any malfunctions after V1, we're going to continue the takeoff and treat it as an in-flight emergency. I'm going to handle the controls and advise ATC, and you back me up with the appropriate QRH procedures and checklists. Pending that, we're going to be departing via the National 7 departure today. Let's brief that departure routing real quick. Really straightforward departure. It's a climbing left turn as soon as practicable to intercept the DCA VOR radial 328 to 5,000 feet or as assigned. Top altitude is 5,000, and we'll expect radar vectors or filed or assigned fix, and expect clearance to filed altitude within 10 minutes after departure. All right. And our initial fix in this departure is going to be AGARD right there to the east. So at some point during this departure, we'll assume vectors to AGARD and use the INS system to get the aircraft proceeding directly towards AGARD. This SID does require takeoff minimums off of runway 600-2 with minimum climb of 275 feet per nautical mile to 1,500 feet, or standard with minimum climb of 460 feet per nautical mile to 800. All right, and of course we are at Ronald Reagan, Washington, D.C., really sensitive airspace here in these parts. Radar required, the famous or perhaps infamous prohibited areas, of course, P56, 1.5 nautical miles north of the airport. That's, of course, the airspace over the National Mall and a smaller bit of airspace over the Naval Observatory that require that immediate left turn to track on the 328 radial outbound to avoid penetrating that sensitive airspace. Pilots should comply with Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport noise abatement and prohibited area avoidance procedures as defined in the AFD special notices. All right. And beautiful skies, beautiful weather today, no real terrain considerations. We do have the prohibited airspace concerns that we've accounted for in this departure procedure, so that's it for our departure procedure. Any questions? It's a 3-man flight crew. I do not have FS2 crew in X-plane, so no questions from me that is playing the other 2 flight crew members. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and get things ready for our pushback and engine start here. Let's pull up the handy-dandy checklist once again. Engine start checklist, let's turn on the beacon. Then let's go to the flight engineer station here. And we'll make sure the galley power is off. It is. We'll turn off the packs. Make sure the engine tube leads are on. Check that we have sufficient bleed PSI here for an engine start, at least over 30 PSI. We have close to 40, it looks like, so perfect. We've got enough bleed pressure here to start the engines. And make sure that we've got everything else set up here okay. Let's go ahead and turn on our fuel pumps. Make sure the lights go out. Perfect. And we'll turn on hydraulic system B as well. All right, fantastic. Let's go ahead and request the push here, and we'll start up all 3 engines actually. Got to remember, we're flying a trijet. All right, let's go to better pushback here, and we'll request the pushback.
Cockpit, please show me where you want to go.
And that looks about good actually. I think I had this from a previous flight. Click enter.
Ground to cockpit. Tow is driving up.
Okay, tow truck should be driving up. Let's go ahead and unguard the engine start switches here. And the start sequence is going to be engine 2, 3, and 1. 2, 3, and 1 for the start. Make sure our seat belts are on. Fantastic.
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect.
And you can make out the Capitol building there on the National Mall. You can make out, of course, the famous Washington Monument. And unfortunately, we're going to be quite busy during this departure, trying to avoid that prohibited airspace, so we may not be able to get a good as view as we would like during the departure from the cockpit, considering how busy we're going to be doing the job of a 3-person flight crew with the limited resources of one sim pilot. We'll see how this goes.
Connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
Okay, let's go ahead and release the parking brake.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
Okay, clear to start engines. Let's go ahead and move our engine 1 start switch here to ground. Alright, N2 coming up there. %, N2 will move our fuel control lever to our idle. You can see the exhaust temps coming up there, N1 coming up. We've had a light off. Fuel flow as well. And starter cutout. Engine 2 is stabilizing. Looks like a good start on engine 2. Let's go ahead and cover the close the guard on engine 2, and let's start engine 3. Start sequence was 2, 3, and 1. Engine 2 starts. Engine 3 start switch to ground. N2 rising. 20% N2 there. We'll go ahead and move our engine 3 fuel control switch to the idle detent. There we go. Idle detent on the engine 2 fuel control lever.
Operation complete. Set parking brake.
Parking brake set.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
Okay, and let's go ahead and disconnect and go to hand signals. And looks like a good start on engine 3 as well, stabilized. We'll close the guard on engine 3, and then we'll move our fuel engine start switch on number 1 to ground. Once again, N2 coming up.
Tow is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the right. We'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
20% fuel control switch to the idle detent, and we'll see you, ground crew. Thanks for the help. Batter pushback in X-plane is just absolutely amazing as our exhaust temps, fuel flow, and N1 gauges start coming alive there. Batter pushback in X-plane is just truly amazing. The amount of control it gives you, the degree of freedom you have in terms of exactly where to position the airplane after you push is just unparalleled. And unfortunately, GSX and Ultimate Ground Crew in P3D just don't come anywhere close to the functionality of a completely free program like Batter Pushback. Okay, starter cutout looks like good start on engine 1 as well. Good start on all 3 engines. Let's go through our after start checklist here. Let's close the guard on engine 1 there, the start switch, and let's go through a checklist. Alright, after start checklist. Anti-ice is required. We're not going to need that today. We just have the window heats on. We're going to turn on the pitot heat here, probe heaters to on. And make sure we have flight instrument set for departure. Altitude select set to 5,000, top altitude for the SID. Let's go ahead and move our transponder here to TARA. And flight instrument set for departure. We've got DCA VOR tuned in. We've got the 328 radial tuned in there, and we've got our heading bugged to about 320, which should hopefully put us on an intercept course to capture that radial. All right, flight controls checked. We'll go full left. Actually, we can look at it here. Full left, full right, full up, full down, neutral. And then rudder, full left, full right, neutral. Perfect. And speed brake is down. Strap trim, let's set that for takeoff. Takeoff strap trim about 4.9 units approximately. That looks good. And we'll set flaps 5 for takeoff. And let's go to the flight engineer station here. Let's turn on the generators for the 3 engines. So we'll close the circuits for all 3 engines and turn on the galley power. Let's turn on the packs and close the engine 2 bleed valves there. And make sure there's no lights in our electrical system here. That's all good. Fuel heat is off. Hydraulics pressure and quantity normal. And pressure set for cruise altitude 19,000 feet. And flight ground switch to flight. Engine number 2 bleeds closed, and everything's looking good on the... Actually, last thing I want to do is make sure I turn off the APU here. That's not listed in the checklist. Oh, actually it is. I just completely skipped past it without realizing. But APU off. It helps to go through the checklist step by step, as opposed to going to a step further on before you finish the steps before. Anyway, APU off, and lastly we'll check that the EPR and airspeed bucks have been set. They have, and we'll do the clear for takeoff checklist once we're at the runway. Okay, let's go ahead and turn on our taxi lights here. Runway turn off lights. We had our beacon on earlier. We get the wing and logo lights on as well. And let's start taxiing out to runway 01. Okay, parking brakes released. Brake check. And let's start taxiing out here. And we'll try not to collide with all this busy traffic that's on the apron here. Sure, our passengers would appreciate that. So we don't get a flying X-plane very often. Usually, it's easier when you have a sim and you're kind of comfortable with the key bindings and the way the sim operates and the quirks and ins and outs of a particular platform. It's easier for me to stick with a sim that I'm familiar with, like P3D, but there is nothing equivalent to the FlyJsim 727, a classic jet equivalent for P3D that's as well modeled and well done as the FlyJsim 727 and 737, and I have both add-ons for XP11. So every time I need to indulge fuel my classic jet, I need to fly a well-modeled classic jet in flight sim. The FlyJsim aircraft and X-plane are my go-to. So. And of course, you know, flying this, it's worth making the switch back to XP11 and refamiliarizing myself with the key bindings and things like that. And plus, I really wanted to do this flight into New York LaGuardia and the Expressway visual at night. Absolutely nothing beats X-plane night lighting as of right now, at least until the new Microsoft Flight Simulator comes out. P3D has made a lot of improvements to their night lighting over the years, but X-plane's night lighting is still far and above, you know, a cut above the rest. So definitely far exceeds P3D in terms of quality. So we're gonna get some fantastic views of X-plane night lighting in the dense urban environs of New York City and the neighborhood of Queens as we come in for that Expressway visual approach runway 31. When we come into LaGuardia later. Crossing an active runway here, let's get our strobes on. We're going to cross to runway 422 here, going down runway 1. And I love that they've modeled the dirt that accumulates, the dirt and the streaks there that accumulate on the windshield with use. That's pretty cool. Now the one thing I'm kind of always weirded out a little by an X-plane is how everything is kind of angular. Like you see the taxi lanes there. If you look at coastlines, rivers, roads, etc., everything just seems angular. There's no nice smooth curves like you would get in P3D. And I forgot to turn off my strobes there on the other end of when we crossed over 0422. We'll do that now. Let's go through our before takeoff checklist here. But I wish X-plane had smoother curves in the coastlines, roads, etc. Anyway, okay, clear for takeoff. Start switch is Goddard. Transponder set to TARA. Landing lights on. Let's get those on. Let's get the strobes on. And on the flight engineer station, autopack trip switch to norm or cutout. We'll move it to cutout because we're going to move it to cutout later anyway after the takeoff. Okay, and just make sure everything else here is good. Auto brakes to RTO, and we're good to go. Okay, once again, V1, 125, rotate 125, and initial altitude selected is 5,000. We're going to turn left immediately after takeoff to heading of approximately 320 and intercept the 328 radial outbound from the DCA VOR. All right, fantastic. Lights, camera, action. We are good to go here. Let's get going. And I love the sound of these engines here. These are true turbojets, of course. The 727 and the original 737 came along before turbofans were the before turbofans really started making inroads. The 737, of course, went through a number of generational updates that saw the introduction of turbofans, but the 727 had true turbojets, and the sounds of these turbojets something to behold for sure. All right, we're lined up. Let's set takeoff power of 97% N1. Okay, takeoff power set, airspeed building. 80 knots. 100.
E1, rotate.
Positive rate, gear up. And we'll start that immediate left turn now to 320 to avoid that sensitive prohibited airspace over the capital. Love the sound of those engines. Okay, needle starting to center there. And let's reduce to climb thrust here, approximately 92% N1. And let's start speeding up. Track flaps to 2. And we'll get flaps up. Move the gear handle into the off position. And let's go ahead and turn on the autopilot here to get some, reduce our workload. Move the IS hold there, and let's go to nav loc to track outbound on the 328 radial. And we'll continue our climb here to flight level 190, cruising flight level. And let's go ahead and go through our after takeoff checklist. Seatbelt switch, we'll leave it on. Anti-ice, nothing needed doing as of right now. Gear is up and off, flaps up, no lights. Autopack trim on the flight engineer station to cut out just where we left it. Hydraulic pressure and quantity normal, and pressurization system checked and set. All right, after takeoff checklist complete. Now let's go, let's assume we've been given vectors direct to AGARD, which if you remember was our initial fix here. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is go to our INS system here, and we're going to go to waypoint change, and we're going to click, we're going to input 0, 1. So essentially what that does is go from our present position 0 to initial waypoint 1, which is AGARD. So let's do that again. 0, 1, insert, and let's move our nav GPS here to GPS, and let's go to OxNav. And the aircraft now should automatically start tracking towards AGARD. And let's get our taxi to runway turn off, lights off. Should have done that during the after takeoff checklist. And coming up on 10,000 here. Let's go ahead and increase speed to 280 knots in the climb. And let's get our landing lights off. Beautiful view of the aircraft flying by there with the Potomac River in the background. Just spectacular. Just love the sound of those engines. FlyJsim did an amazing job modeling the sound of those engines for sure. Love that sound. Okay, now we're turning to intercept that straight line between the present position at which we started, the position in which we started, we input that that direct to AGARD. Essentially, that's why I did that kind of weird turn back towards the south there before going east towards AGARD. But we're on track now, so all good. Check once again that we have climb power set 92%. That's great. And let's go ahead and turn off our seat belts. No turbulence, so can let our passengers stretch their legs a little. Fantastic. And make sure we have ALCEL set there so that the aircraft automatically levels off at flight level 190. You can see some of the details that FlyJsim put in this aircraft. Really, really quite something. Love the PBR effects in X-Plane, of course. Now, the one thing that FlyJsim didn't do right was that they didn't model the APU exhaust that's actually on the wing. So earlier when we were at the gate with the APU running, you probably saw some of the exhaust fumes coming up from the APU. You have an APU exhaust there actually, but it's not modeled because FlyJsim, I shouldn't be confusing it with FlySimware, but FlyJsim decided to mirror the wing textures from the right wing onto the left wing. So unfortunately you don't get to see the APU exhaust because the textures are just a straight mirror of the textures from the port wing. Yeah, actually, so it's the other way around. The textures from the left wing were mirrored on the right wing where the APU is located, APU exhaust is located. So unfortunately that's one of the limitations But other than that, this is a beautifully modeled aircraft. Just absolutely love it. Okay, we're leveling off here, our cruising flight level of 190. We had our altimeter set as standard since we were flying with custom weather already, so I didn't need to reset that. And it's going to be the same situation more or less in New York. So we start our descent. Let's back off the throttle here a little bit, and we'll aim for a cruising speed of about 300 knots. Don't need to cruise too fast. And this CIVA INS, this is the Philips CIVA INS. I think you can buy it on the xplane.org store. That's where I got it a long time ago. But it's super well integrated into the FlyJsim 727, as you can see. Love this 3D model here. And if you want to check on our ground speed, pretty simple matter, going to our track ground speed window here, and doing about 398 knots ground speed, so pretty nice. We've got another 24 miles to go to AGARD, and 3.7 minutes before we arrive at AGARD, or cross over AGARD, at which point we'll be joining the Corey 4 arrival into New York LaGuardia. There's Chesapeake Bay down there. And let's get that wing light off, actually. We can probably get that on once again during the descent. As we come up on AGARD here, let's go ahead and brief our arrival routing and do our approach brief, actually. So once again, really nice conditions at New York LaGuardia, all up and down the eastern seaboard today, actually, since we're using custom weather. But winds are almost straight down the runway, I think, 300 at about 7 knots. And visibility is unlimited. Altimeter is 29902, and we're about to fly over AGARD. Let's look at the arrival routing here for the Corey 4 arrival. And actually, let's go back to night, make it easier to see. Okay, so this is not a scale, so the aircraft position on here doesn't actually match where we are. We're actually coming up on AGARD. But AGARD, track 096 to Speak, Speak track 055 to the Smyrna VOR, then outbound on the 044 radial from Smyrna to Skippy, about flight level 190, Bessie about 17,000, Edger above, actually Edger doesn't have an altitude restriction, Edger, then on to Davis about 13,000, Brand about 11,000, Corey at 10,000, then on to Robbinsville VOR. Then we'll go outbound on the Robbinsville VOR radial 054 to Tykes, Minx, Renu, Apple. Actually, correction. Outbound on the 054 radial from Robbinsville at Tykes, Minx, Renu. At Renu, we'll join the 225 radial inbound from the LaGuardia VOR. So Renu to Apple. Apple is 16.3 DME from LaGuardia, and then Proud, which is 11 DME from LaGuardia VOR. Okay, so from Proud, we'll continue on to the dials fix for the Expressway visual runway 31. Let's brief that approach procedure here. Expressway visual runway 31. MSA is 3,000 feet to the west and 2,100 feet to the east of the LaGuardia VOR. And the procedure will overfly Prospect Park to Dials, and Dials is 4.9 DME from LaGuardia on the 225 radial. We'll want to cross Dials at 2,500 feet or above. Dials is also indicated by 317-degree radial from the Kennedy VOR, 115.9er. We'll have that in nav 2. But at Dials, we'll start descending, setting the aircraft up in landing configuration, and we'll follow the Long Island Expressway on a roughly 085-degree track to Flushing Meadows Park. About halfway down Flushing Meadows Park, we'll start a continuous right-hand turn around Citi Field, descending left-hand turn around City Field to roll out on final for 3-1 at relatively low altitude. This is like a super fun approach for sure. And the PAPI indicates a 3-degree glide slope. And we'll use the LGA localizer for course guidance when the LaGuardia VOR radial 225 is not applicable. Fantastic. And we're going to be landing flaps 30 today. Auto brake setting of level 2, let's say. That's set to medium now. Auto brake set to medium. I should have disarmed it. Should have moved it from RTO back to disarm after takeoff. Forgot to do that. But we're going to do level 2, and we'll arm our speed brakes as well, of course. We'll review the taxi in once we actually land. But that's it for approach brief for now. And you can see we're now going to the Smyrna VOR. Speak was waypoint 2, Smyrna is waypoint 3. And waypoint 4 is outbound on the Smyrna VOR. Okay, we're coming up on Bessie here. Let's go ahead and start our descent. I'm going to roll the altitude selector down to 10,000, which is the altitude at which we want to cross Corey. And let's go ahead and start our descent. Let's bring the throttle back. We'll descend at about a nice 2,000 feet per minute descent rate. And altimeter is 29902 at LaGuardia as we come up on transition here, flight level 180. Let's back off the throttle a bit more. Okay, let's go through our descent checklist here. Seatbelt switches to on. Let's get that wing light on. We'll turn on the landing lights once we're to 10,000. Cruise transition, altimeter's reset 29902. Radio altimeter not needed for this one. Flight instruments set. Let me tune in the LaGuardia 113.1. We got that set up already, and actually I want to tune in Robbinsville here, 113.8. I do have that as well, actually. And let's do 115.9, that's JFK, if I already had that set up in nav2. Perfect, so I've got everything already set up. Flight instruments are set. Let me back off the throttle a bit more here. And let's go to the flight engineer station here. Hydraulic pressure and quantity, normal, pressure and cooling doors. All that is set. Things are looking fantastic. And descent check complete. That's Philadelphia behind us. Love this aircraft, especially in this old Eastern Airlines livery. Looks pretty awesome. All right, continuing our descent here. Let's get some speed brakes out to help us out. Move that down to the flight detent. And actually, I just realized we're past waypoint 9. Let's go to heading select there. We were turning back towards waypoint 1, I think. That was me not paying attention because I was paying attention to the external views there. Okay, and I want to go on a 058 course outbound. That was poorly done, but we'll get back on track here. Let's retract those speed brakes now. And past Corey, let's assume we've been instructed to continue our descent down to 6,000. Let's go into nav loc mode there. Let's go to altcell. Don't forget to do that. This aircraft can be a real handful. No auto throttle. Very rudimentary autopilot, of course. And we're coming up on 10,000 here. Let's go ahead and get our landing lights on. And let's get our taxi and runway turn-off lights on right now, because we're going to be too busy during the approach to remember that. Okay, through 10,000 feet. Landing lights on, altimeter set 29902, approach checklist complete. And I'm going to descend in IAS hold mode there. About 250 knots in the descent. And as we come up on the Robbinsville VOR here, I'm going to go ahead and go into heading select mode. And we're going to track outbound on the 054 radial. Still inbound towards the Robbinsville VOR. You can see the DME ticker counting down there. We're going to enter the cone of confusion momentarily. Spectacular sunset here. And we crossed over the VOR. Going to wait for the needle to center on the other side. There we go. Let's go ahead and go into navloc mode again. And we're going to continue on to about 26.4 DME, which is waypoint Renu. At Renu, we'll intercept and join the 225 radial inbound to LaGuardia VOR, at which point we'll start planning to join the Expressway visual approach for 3-1. All right, fantastic. See Manhattan, New York City there, gleaming in the sunset. Beautiful. And we're 15 DME from Robbinsville, outbound on the 054 radial. At 26.4 DME, we'll be at Renu, at which point we can intercept and join the 225 radial inbound to LaGuardia. And 225, of course, the opposite course is 045, and that radial to LaGuardia will take us over Prospect Park. We'll start descending down to 2,500 to cross Dials at or about 2,500. At Dials, the outer marker beacon will go off. That's another indication we have that we're at Dials. We'll start a right turn to 085 approximately and overfly the Long Island Expressway, descending, setting the aircraft up in landing configuration towards Flushing Meadows Park. Over Flushing Meadows Park, we'll initiate a continuous descending left-hand turn to roll out on final for this very fun, very challenging approach to New York LaGuardia's runway 31. Okay, let's go into heading select mode here. Let's turn to heading of 045 approximately, and let's go to the LaGuardia VOR. 045, navloc mode, and that's of course the 225 radial essentially inbound to LaGuardia. So I've reset the system time here so that we have a little bit more of this gorgeous view of the sunset as we come into land. I don't want the sun to fully set as we were landing in LaGuardia. Let's go ahead and unpause the sim here. Beautiful view of that sunset there as we continue towards LaGuardia. You see the Statue of Liberty off to the left and lower Manhattan there. Beautiful. Okay, let's go ahead and roll our altitude selector here down to 2,500. which is the altitude at which we want to cross dials. And let's go ahead and go to alt cell. And we'll go to IAS hold. And let's go down to 2500 here. Actually, you know what? Let's go to vertical speed and descend in that mode. Let's go to flaps 1 there. Flaps 2 actually. Make sure we've armed the speed brake for the approach, and make sure we've got to set our auto brakes to medium. Got our landing lights on. Looking fantastic. And of course we got some spectacular views there off to the left of Lower Manhattan, the sunset, Midtown Manhattan, of course, with the Empire State Building. Just absolutely stunning, fantastic views. Okay, coming up on 2,500 feet here as we overfly Prospect Park. There's Prospect Park down below. Continuing towards Dials. Beautiful views of Lower Manhattan there. And we'll slow down to 180 knots here. We'll set flaps 5. And at Dials is approximately 5 DME from LaGuardia on the 225 radial. It also happens to be more or less coincident with the outer marker. Let's turn off the autopilot here and go manual. It also happens to be coincident more or less with the outer marker. So when we hear the outer marker go off, we'll go ahead and initiate that right turn to a heading of approximately 085. There's the outer marker. Heading 085 approximately, and we'll follow the Long Island Expressway there towards Flushing Meadows Park, and we'll slow down and set the aircraft up in landing configuration for the landing on 3-1 at LaGuardia. And of course, with the lights of New York City, this approach is just absolutely stunning. Let's get our gear down. Gear down, 3 green. Let's set flaps 15. And we'll continue following the Long Island Expressway here towards Flushing Meadows Park. Flushing Meadow Park. You can see the, let's set flaps 30 here. You can see the New York State Pavilion down there. Okay, flaps 30 set, landing gear down, 3 green, speed brake, auto brake armed, landing checklist complete. And about halfway down Flushing Meadow Park here, we'll go ahead and start that left turn, descending left turn to roll out on final for 3-1 at LaGuardia. There's the runway, tracking just a little high, but we'll correct for that. Stunning approach this, just absolutely spectacular, and with the sunset there, just can't beat it. Okay, on glide path.
400.
Rolling out on final. Slight crosswind from the left.
300. 200.
Okay, reverse is deployed. Full reverse. Decelerating. There's 80 knots. Reverser stowed. Manual braking. Getting a little off center line there. And we'll take the taxiway here to the left. Alright, welcome to beautiful New York City, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to LaGuardia. As usual, of course, we'll stop here momentarily, take a look at a couple of quick replays of that landing, and then we'll come back in, taxi into the gate, shut down, and call it an evening.
1,000. 500. 400. 300. 200. 100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10. 9.
Okay, folks, welcome back. That was a truly awesome approach. I really did enjoy that one. Okay, let's go through our after landing flows here and after landing checklist, and then we'll taxi on in. Okay, after landing checklist, window heat off, pitot heat off, probe heaters off, flaps up, radar transponder off, speed brakes down, and let's go to the flight engineer panel here, and galley power off, flight ground switch to ground, and we'll start the APU, and we'll put it on the bus after it's started. 1, 2, 3. APU starting up, exhaust temps coming up. Okay, after landing flows complete. Let's go ahead and taxi on in here. I actually forgot one other thing I have to do. Make sure to turn off the landing lights, and we'll turn off the wing light as well, and the strobes. You can hear the APU starting up back there. And of course, this rendition of LaGuardia from Civic is of the futuristic terminal when it's fully modernized and renovated. As of right now, I don't think it looks anything like this. But we'll go park. We're flying an airliner that's severely out of date and been retired since this since it saw its glory days here at this and other airports around the country. So we're just going to pick any gate we can. I think we'll park straight ahead, actually, here on Hotel. We'll go ahead and park besides this United 737 at that gate. Okay, let's get our taxi lights, turn off lights off. And we'll taxi straight into this gate here. Alpha 6 it looks like. We'll stop at the first hatch mark there. Let's go ahead and set the parking brake. Get the checklist out. And let's go ahead and close the field and generator, buses, circuits closed. And let's go ahead and, since the APU is on the buses, let's go ahead and shut down the engines here. Fuel control switches to cut off on all 3 engines. Engine shutting down, let's go ahead and turn off the seat belts. No smoking signs, let's turn off the beacon. Let's turn off the hydraulic B pumps. Let's turn off all the fuel pumps. Let's open up all the bleed valves there. Okay, fantastic. Shutdown checklist complete. Okay, folks, welcome to New York LaGuardia. It's really fun bringing the old Eastern Airlines out of retirement temporarily and flying this beautiful classic trijet, the Boeing 727-100 from FlyJsim, from Washington National to New York LaGuardia for the fantastic, incredibly challenging, white knuckle, really fun Expressway visual 3-1 approach. As always, folks, I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you like this content, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe. and I look forward to catching you in the future. Y'all take care. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.